Hello, CSAEers. It is Thursday, July 6th, and it seems like a Friday. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but it feels like a Friday to me. Anyways, it's noon, so I am putting off my lunch to do this Facebook Live webcast. So I hope there's going to be some value delivered, and I hope people are going to find it interesting. So this is the next episode of Conquering Content for CSAE. I'm Trustrum, Manager of Content. We're going to be talking about blogging for success for associations. And as I said, it's episode 3, but it's actually that's the 4th episode we're doing. Lose track. I can't even keep track of things, so take that with a grain of salt. I'll try and keep it brief. Last time we had problems with the internet. The bandwidth went down, so everything became really blocky and out of sync. So I hope that doesn't happen this time, but that's the problem with doing things live, is you can't predict what the technology is going to do. You can just hope for the best and prepare as best you can. So anyways, when we talk about blogging for associations, what we're really talking about is how to serve your organization's agenda and how to get your message out, whatever that may be. It's going to vary from one organization to the next. Obviously, CSAE's message is very different, and how we go about it is very different because we have a very broad umbrella. We serve the entire association sector in Canada, so that really lets us deal with a lot of things, including the stuff that is important to the individual associations who make up our membership, as well as those that are not our members, we are considered prospects or not. But also for associations, the topics that are specific to associations within their structure, so governance, volunteerism, that sort of thing. And then it goes down into the tools that associations use, such as events, education programs, and the like. So we really have a very broad breadth of things that we can blog about here at CSAE, but a lot of associations don't have that same broad range of topics. They have to be very specific to what the sectors those associations deal with, and specifically their more refined membership, their more focused membership, I should say. So a lot of associations, I imagine, feel that they can only blog so much about certain things before they just repeat themselves or they cover the topics. But that's not really true. You have to have an extremely narrowly focused sector for an association to run out of topics, because things are going to be changing in your sector. There's things that members want to hear about. There's things that members want to say. So if you're an association, you feel that you don't need a blog, well, maybe you don't, but you might want to give it another thought after listening to this episode to see if it's something you want to go ahead with anyways and give it a try. So the starting point for any blog is what you're going to use the blog with. The best thing to do is to blog directly off of your primary website. So you don't want to have a website for your association, or if you're a member of an association and you're listening to this because you're thinking about blogging for your employer as a member, then you want it to be integrated within your overall website. You don't want to say have a website for your company or your association that is run using WordPress, .NET Nuke, or whatever, and then go over and use Blogger for your blog. Okay, because the reason being is that the intention of the blog is to serve the overall organization. Right? You're informing your audience, but you've got to bring that audience back to your organization in some way, and it's really difficult to do when you've created a divide between the organization and your blog. Right? So you want the blog to be incorporated into your overall structure. So that means ideally your blog will be a part of the original structure of your website, so that you can, when you're thinking about what you want to use to run your website, that blog comes into play. It's a factor, it's not an afterthought. Now here at CSAE, we were originally using the default blog module for the software that our site uses, and as a default it was inadequate. So one of the first things I did when I came in is I started looking for other modules for pay that you would add on, and that was the advantage of the original blog module, is that it was it was part of it, so there wasn't a price attached to it. But CSE at that point wasn't really putting a lot of concentrated effort into the blogging, so it was something that was seen as necessary, but it didn't have a tight focus. It didn't have a great deal of direction to it. So when we started adding more direction to it as part of our overall content strategy, we needed something that was better capable of performing the function and providing the tools and the resources that would allow us to do that. And so now we've actually got 2 blogs running on the CSAE website. One is a blog, as it is commonly, the term is commonly used, but we also have one that is used specifically for news and updates. So we keep our news and information drops completely separate from our blog feed. So even though one functions as the news and updates functions as a blog feed that you can subscribe, we post in the exact same way as we do to our blog. The purpose that we're putting towards our audience is different. And that's the other aspect. Once you've decided on the software, is you've got to decide what that blog is meant to do. Are you going to use it to just dump information? Hey, here's the latest thing going on with our association. Or are you going to use it to drive a conversation? And that brings us to the type of blogging that we do at CSE, which is called topic-driven blogging. We don't just blog stuff saying, here's our latest product, here's our latest service, here's our latest event, here's the details, here's how you buy. That's not really a blog. You know, it goes through the mechanics of a blog, but it's not blogging in the sense that most people understand it. And that is, you know, talking about something. There's a topic that you bring up, and although the conversation starts off as one-sided, you know, the blogger presents information to the audience, it is done in a way that is driving that topic towards a conversation. You want to get responses, you want to get comments, which the blogger then in turn replies to. So it's not meant to just be a throw out there and, you know, to drive business directly in that way. It's not used for advertisements per se. But you can advertise and sell your product and your events and whatever through your blog by being topic driven. And the way that is done is you present a topic that would be relevant to the people you want to sell to or you want to attend your events. So if your association happens to deal with a particular trade, you might have a topic about, you know, legislation that's coming up in your province that affects your trade. You know, like how are changes to the minimum wage going to affect your trade, for example. You have a talk about that, you start a discussion, but say you've also got an education event that's going to be talking about this. You know, you have people who are experts on it. Maybe you have some people in the government that you have contacts with that you're bringing in. We're going to talk about the benefits and, you know, the downsides of increasing the minimum wage, and they're going to talk to your members, who are then going to take it back to their organizations and, you know, have this debate internally. So you would have a discussion about, you know, like maybe how the minimum wage has affected other places that have done it. The U.S. is doing a lot of experiments with it, for example. So you talk about some of the results that have been found there, and, you know, drive a discussion there, and people get comments going, and at the end you say, by the way, this is something that we're going to be bringing up at this event next month. You click here, and then you provide a button or a link or whatever to go. So what you're really trying to sell for your association, be it an education event, publication, whatever, you put it as a call to action at the end. And that's what it's called, where you're like, here's the valuable information. You know, it's like 80% of your blog, and then that remaining 20% at the end is a separate call to action. And it's not incorporated into the blog. It's separate. And by the way, boom. So your audience could read your blog in its entirety and still derive value from it. They still want to participate in the conversation. That's something that they take back to their boss and say, here's something we should be talking about. You know, they want to share it. They want to push it out on social media and what have you. And they may never follow your call to action. They may never read your call to action. But what they're doing is they're creating a conversation that then pulls back to your website. And this is why it's important to have your blog on your primary website, because they're going to hopefully go out and say, you know, I found this really great article on someone's blog, and I'm going to share it with other people who I know who have similar interests, and then those people will come to your blog and read it, and they may never have known your association exists, but now they do through your blog. And now they have the call to action put in front of them, and maybe they're the ones who are going to buy it. So this is why it's important. This is where if you're just using your blog to just sell and just put up your information, like, here's what we're doing, buy, you're not going to get that element of people sharing it, that interest, that audience expansion. It's just not going to happen. Because when was the last time you saw an advertisement on, say, Facebook, like as an advertisement on the side, we're like, you know what? I just have to share this advertisement. This is a great ad. I'm going to share this in my Facebook feed. I'm going to grab this link and I'm going to throw it on over to Twitter. Nobody does that. Nobody. So why is somebody going to do that with your blog if your blog is purely an advertisement? So that's the other thing. Keep it topic driven. I was talking about software platforms. A lot of people, especially small businesses and small associations, are using WordPress these days for their primary website. And because WordPress started out as a blog, a blogging platform, it handles blogging very well. It's all incorporated into it. And it's the plugins that came afterwards and the redesigns that came afterwards that allow it to function otherwise as an overall organization's website. And we do have the CSAE board writing website is a WordPress site, although our primary website, the CSAE website, is not. So that's my personal preference. Is I love WordPress for blogging. It's got a lot of tools that allow you to control SEO, control to calculate and keep track of SEO. There's a lot of stuff for incorporating social media sharing very easily. So if you've got a small association and you're building your website, my suggestion is to look into WordPress as an option before you start looking at these massive packages, these softwares that are designed for larger organizations with bigger budgets, because WordPress comes with the hefty price tag of $0. Now, if you do have a bigger organization and you're putting money, you've got a budget where you're putting more money into the software and you're doing something like .NET Nuke, then you're going to have to pay, and then your blogging options are via modules, add-ons that you have to pay for additionally. So when you're paying for your blog to be added to your website, you don't have a lot of room to experiment unless your budget is just like, let's try this out. No, it doesn't work. Let's buy another one. Oh, that one doesn't work. Okay, let's keep buying and buying and buying. Most organizations don't have that kind of budget. So you really have to know what you're looking for in a blog module. So the necessities for me are you have to be able to control your URL. Typically what happens if you, especially with a lot of the free .NET Nuke module, for example, when you add that on, it takes the title of your blog and turns that into the URL. And it just does it through a simple algorithm. So you get the stop words are included. Stop words are things like it, the, and, of. They're words that bridge segments of your sentence, of your title. So they're not really necessary. When Google sees them and uses them for indexing your URL, they just basically ignore it. So they're not necessary. But it's also possible that, say you're announcing events, you have a lot of events that are similar. So you might not really get a lot of differentiation between URLs if it's, there's similar titles in your blog popping up from time to time. So what you want is you want to customize URL where you can put your title in and you can still go in and change that URL. So you can take the stop words out. You can make sure there's hyphens between spaces. You don't want spaces in your URL. And this is another problem where you get, say, systems like .NET Nuke, when they automatically translate titles that you put on the back end, when you're putting your content in and they translate into a URL, if you've left a space in your title, then they put that as a space in the URL. They don't necessarily put it in as a hyphen. And then that adds a code. So if you ever see a URL where it's like %20, blah, 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 that's an actual space from the content as it's been translated into the URL. So you don't have that problem if you're able to customize your URL. You can make the URL whatever you want, which allows you to get finer control over your SEO targeting, but also gets rid of those problematic characters. Like you don't want to, if you have a registered trademark symbol in your title for your blog, for example, like we have it with if we blog about our CAE program, that's a registered trademark. So we have the registered trademark symbol. Now, if we automatically put that into a URL, then it tries to interpret that, and then it's not a registered trademark symbol that appears in the URL. It's the code that represents it. So again, you get into the percentage, number, blah, 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 and that's not all friendly. Like if you look at a URL like that and you try and remember it or you try and type it out by hand, it's not an easy thing to do. And the other thing is don't use underscores. You want hyphens. If you use underscores in a URL, Google will ignore that. So the two words that are separated by the underscore are read as a single word. by Google when it indexes. So use hyphens instead of underscores when you do URL. Okay, so other than customized URLs, you also want to be able to do customized excerpts. So an excerpt is, a lot of blogs have a master blog page where it's the image for your blog, and then a brief summary, and then underneath that is the image for the blog that was previous, a brief summary, and then you click on the image or the blog title or whatever, and it takes you into the blog on a separate page. If a lot of blog software will take that little summary from the first paragraph of your blog. So it doesn't make sense to do that because if you've written a good blog, that's going to be your introduction. Now, an introduction is not the same as a summary. And also, it'll do something like a character limit. It'll say, like, take the first 200 characters of the first paragraph of this blog, and we'll put that as a summary. So you'll get the summary cut off mid-sentence. Like, the chances of it, the 200th character being at the end of a sentence is pretty small. So it's going to cut off, which looks horrible. But the other thing is that when it does that, you're creating duplicate content because you're taking content from your blog and you're putting it on another page. It's not a really big thing because it's like 200 characters or so, but it's still something that you don't want to really do. So you want your blog software to be able to let you write a customized excerpt and summary. And in that, you should put your chosen keywords, your SEO. I'm not going to delve too deeply into SEO for blogging because that's a different topic, but you can put your keywords in there. But it also lets you write a proper summary. Here's what so-and-so is going to be talking about in this blog, and here's the value it delivers to you, instead of just taking the first couple sentences of your introduction. So that is value because it's better at driving people to click and go into your blog than just random characters taken off the first couple of sentences. So you want that as well. You also want to be able to customize the banner, put your own banner on it, so you find out the dimensions of the image it puts on. Just build a template in Photoshop. This is what I do for the CSAE blog. The dimensions of the image that appears in the CSAE blog is all standard. So I just have a Photoshop file where I take the new image, copy and paste it in. I've already got the branding on there, so I copy and paste it into a layer underneath the branding, add any text I want, move the image around to what I want, and then just save it out as a file with a unique name, and boom, there's my banner, done. There's no having to, finesse it every single time, work from scratch. So do yourself a favor, build a template once you know what the dimensions are for your blog, and just the way it keeps it uniform. It keeps it, there's a standardized look to it. So that banner will typically appear inside of the blog, but also on the blog master index page. And as I mentioned previously on, I think it was the second episode, keep your imagery engaging. So be a little creative with your image choices. That's also important to blog because it drags the person in as much as having a creative and interesting title. But also, speaking of how you have this master page for your blog, that's also important. You see a lot of blogs, say with Blogger, like the free software that you can get online, that a lot of people just have blogs for their interests or their personal blogs or whatever. They use it as like an online diary. A lot of those are just like a steady stream of text. When you add a new post, it posts it right on top of the other one. So all of your blog posts are constantly being pushed down. Now, I'm not going to get into the technicalities of the article tag, which can bypass this problem I'm going to mention, because the article tag still isn't widely used. It still isn't standardized for all browsers, I believe. There's still some browsers that don't accept it. But when you use this steady stream of blog feed, what happens is you're always adding new content on. So your first post ever, say it's 750 words, you've got 750 words on your blog. Your next post is 1,000, so now you've got 1,750 words. It keeps going and going and going. And when you share this around, you're sharing a URL with an anchor tag, so it goes to that part of it. But it's still coming from your one primary URL, the one address. They're not broken off into little pages. So if you have an SEO strategy in mind to help you index, this steady stream just blows it away, because every time you post something, you're adding more words, which dilutes the SEO value of every other post you've done to that point. So you absolutely want every blog post on its own page. You want a master index page, which people go through to find the blog post they want, and then they click, and it takes you to a separate page for your blog. You cannot have a professional blog with a single steady stream of blog posts built on top of each other. It looks horrible, for one. It looks horrible. Try sorting through that, because you're scrolling through it, so you're going to lose people because you're taking up their time by not sending them directly to where they want to go if they just come to your blog on their own instead of from a direct link. But it's for SEO purposes, it's a nightmare. So just trust me on this. Stick with a blog, one blog per page. As for the blogs themselves, right now, it used to be that 500, 750 words was a good blog. The trend was that get in, get out quickly with the messaging. But now people have kind of grown accustomed to blogging and going and reading blogs, and they trust them more. They found the ones that they like to read, so they go there and they treat them with more. They have more authority with their audiences these days. So that means that people are willing to spend more time there. So the current trend for blogs is write something that's like 2,000, even 3,000 words. Take the time to really delve into a subject. Break it up into multiple blog posts of 2,000 to 3,000 words each. People really are staying around and reading these. And these are the blogs that are performing that well because they're no longer that in and out quick and type of approach where someone's like, okay, that was a great starter, but where's the meat of this topic? I really want to understand this topic, and I can't do that in 750 words. So people are past that point. So some people will find it very difficult to write 2,000, 3,000 words. So what I suggest and what I do is I take it in bits and pieces. I have my blog open, my blog open in a Word file, and I'll be off doing something else, and then I'll go write a couple hundred words on my blog, go off and do something else, come back, write a couple hundred words, and by the end of the day, I've written 1,000 words or so just on that blog. And it's just like as a second thought thing. It's not something I'm really spending a lot of my time on. So that's something that I would suggest doing. Pick at it a bit here and there, and then but before you know it, you've got a blog written. I also find that it works well if you bullet point the points you want to hit in that blog, and then work from one to the next. So you kind of like build a timeline for that blog that or an outline that really helps drive where you're writing to, especially when you're not focused on it. So I would also say it's very important that you keep readability in mind. Don't go for like really long sentences, really thick paragraphs. Break your text up so it's got readability. And if you actually Google, I can't remember the URL of the site offhand because they just changed it. It used to be something like readability-io was the site. But anyways, if you do put readability into Google, you're more likely in the first couple of hits to get this website, Readability. And what it is a tool where you can take your blog and you can copy it in there, and it tells you at what grade level the wording you're using, the sentence structure and all that is. And if you're getting like university, college level readability, you need to start using shorter sentences. You have to start using more active voice, get rid of passive voice. Don't use a complex word when a simple word will do. Stuff like that really takes your readability down. And readability is something that Google takes into account. The more reader-friendly your blog is, the more likely Google is to rank it higher. And this is something that's just advancing as Google continues to change its algorithms. It continues to take things like readability into account. So if you've got a really dense writing style and it's just, you're one of these people who writes a paragraph that's thick and it's also one sentence, that's not good readability. That's something where someone's going to look at it and be like, oh my God, my eyes are glazing over. This is so dull. It's just, you can't write that way if you want to have a professional blog that's going to, people are going to come back to. So readability is a good tool. Also try something like Grammarly. Grammarly is good. That's a spell checker and grammar checker tool. It has free and paid accounts, and the good thing is that it's like $100 and something for a year. So it's less than $200 for a year, and you can build it into the plugin works on browsers and it works on Word. So it checks your spelling. It's not perfect. Any spell checker, grammar checker, it's not perfect. But the thing is, they keep doing updates to improve it. And really the thing that I love about it is that it has different modes. So you can set it to like business blog mode or creative blog mode or memo mode or whatever. There's over a dozen different modes and writing styles that it takes into account. So if you're blogging, something like that is, and you don't have an editor, something like that is a great tool. It's a great resource. So other than that, you also want maybe to break it up with images and videos. That draws people down through the blog. That's a good way to enhance your blog. The advantage of this of a blog is that it also builds subscription, especially post Castle. You can add a subscription tool to your blog where someone opts in to say, I want you to give me information. So there's that consent aspect too. It's very important. After July 1st, where the changes to Castle come in, consent is something that's going to be watched very closely, and it's very important to associations. A blog is a way to get consent from people. So it's also important to time your blogs on a regular basis. Don't switch up from day to day the amount that you post per week. If you can help it, keep it regular, on a regular schedule, at least once a week, I suggest. CSAE currently does twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, in the morning. It's usually the first thing I do when I come into the office. So pick a day and then stick to it. Try and stick to a certain time too. That way people know when to expect something from you, and they'll go and look. And a way to choose the day and the time is go into your analytics. Find out when people are coming by your website as is, and what good times as well as good days, and then start releasing on that at that time and see how it goes. Now, of course, you're not just relying on people coming of their own to your blog. You've got to socialize it. So make sure your blog has social features built into it. Let them share and like off of your blog without leaving the blog, because that's the whole point. The blog is to get people to your website. You want them there so you can get that call to action to them in front of them. But you also want to keep that option where when they're done reading the blog, they can go to somewhere else on your website. You don't want them to finish your blog and then go somewhere else to some other website. So allow for like shares, likes, retweets, things like that, people to join you as a follower. These are all the things that you should have on your blog. Do not include links that let people go directly off to your Facebook or Twitter page, things like that. Because again, if you send them there, you're sending them to another website. Sure, it's your Facebook page and it's your Twitter page, but it's not as easy to monetize Twitter and Facebook pages directly, because what are the purpose of Facebook pages and Twitter page? To get people's interest and draw them to your association's main page. But now you send them back to Facebook and Twitter. See what I mean? So retweets, shares, follows, all that kind of stuff, comments on your blog, great. Do not post links that take people elsewhere off your page. All right, you're defeating the purpose of a blog. Let me just see what else we want to do. A good thing for gaining interest, as I was talking about topics that are important to people, is have guest bloggers. See if people who are not working for your association but are members, or are outside of your membership but are still in the same sector or have some kind of connection to your sector, see if they'll be interested in blogging for you. It gives a degree of authority to your blog because people want to talk through you to your audience, for example, but also because it's like you've got people in positions of authority outside of your organization, outside your membership, who are saying, yes, I agree with what this association is doing. I agree with their agenda. I agree with their message, to the point where I want to contribute to it. So, and this is something that CSAE really enjoys. We have some great content contributors around the world, people who are in our membership, people who are outside of our membership. We've got people who come and say, can I blog for you? And we give them outlines, and this is very important when you have guest bloggers. You have to tell them, this is how long we expect, this is the method we use, it's topic driven, so don't just talk about your product or your consulting service through the whole thing. It's not an advertisement. You have to talk about a topic, and then you say, please provide a bio, hopefully with a picture. You provide some background on your company, what your expertise is, what your skill sets are, and why people should trust you as a person of authority on the topic. And that's where you let them mention their book and their consulting service or whatever in their bio, because then that's where they're going to read about that person. So it makes sense that you can then give them that benefit. Because if you're just saying, yeah, please give us a blog, but don't say anything that's about you. People aren't going to want to come. You know, it has to be a give and take. You have to trade off. You have to trade something. You have to give something back to get these third-party contributors to come and do stuff for you. But it's worth it. It not only saves you from having to write all the blogs yourself, but it really does mix things up and keep things interesting to have these third-party voices speaking to your audience, and it actually will help you enlarge your audience. We've got since we've started going with global wide with our content contributors, we got them from Europe, Australia, and the like. It brings people who are paying attention to them to your blog, so it really gets your message out there more. So I guess that's all I'm really going to say about blogging for associations today, how to do it successfully. There's a lot more that I could say, but I'm not seeing any questions pop up, and I would love to see them. So please, if you see this in the recorded, after it's been recorded, you see this shared around, please do comment, send us questions, because I could do numerous other broadcasts on blogging with more specific things, like I was saying, SEO for blogging, how to choose your topics for blogging, how to go after your audience for blogging. There's just all ways this can branch out. So I'd love to hear questions to see if you want to know more about blogging for association specifically. Also share this on social media. Get the word out. Conquering content with CSAE. We're going to come back next week with another topic, maybe a topic from a question somebody picks. We'll see. Otherwise, I'll announce it next week what we're going to be doing and when. So other than that, I guess it's everybody go enjoy your lunch. That's what I'm going to do, and we'll see you next week. Hopefully with some questions. And happy blogging, everyone.